Hello. 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 My name is Shirley Self, and I'm here to talk astrology and continuing my explanation of the vision of William Butler Yeats, The Journey of the Soul. We've come to moon phase 20. We're up here in the air quarter and approaching the last quarter moon. This is the waning moon. The way you find a moon phase 20 is it's going to be the sixth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's the sixth 24-hour period after the full moon. Or, mathematically, the moon is 244 degrees after the sun. Now that's at 244 degrees to 257 degrees after the sun. So here we come to moon phase 20. After the wild ride of 18 and 19, notice the stars there. They're initiation phases. They're mandatory phases. After that wild ride, moon phase 20 is on automatic pilot. They have come to the rectangle of the extremists. These people have, as Yeats says, ease of movement. They're specialists. That unity of being is being broken down and put into a hierarchy as one part, one talent, one main interest is now leading everything else, and everything else needs to fall into line so that they have a hierarchy and a new stability in movement. They are riding the wave of current thought. Yeats calls that the dragon. The dragon. It is the karmic dragon, the wave of current thought. He's created a new philosophy, a philosophy of action, and he does no longer need belief. He has passion from here and conviction from here. 20 knows itself as action, and he has to develop standards of action. Let me show you the two cards that are pertaining to this. This is what he's got, and this is what he needs. These people are that the will is burgeoning. The will is you might say wild with power, that power having been developed. And the power is a result of that focus into a specialty. Both the heart and the mind are now focused into that specialty. And these people are, because of that ease of movement, it's easy for them to go too far and to virtually damage their own soul, to go into self-desecration. They're impulsive people. They're audacious, they're autocratic, and they are men and women of their times. And they're people who take charge and take advantage. Now, 19 created situations in which he could do his thing, but 20 finds them. And what will happen is that 20 will share some issue with the larger community, and some suffering, and that will bring him a commonality with the with his people. Probably it's a larger issue than down here. Down here it starts in my neighborhood. Up here, this is a national issue or a state issue, something something bigger than home. So what these people are doing is they're fighting for justice. All of these are revolutionaries, and these people are liberators. Now the difference is that they take advantage of the revolution that was created in the previous lifetime. He's taken advantage of the revolution of his moon phase 19. So they're going to indulge in some dramatic battle, and trust me, drama is a really important word. You're coming up here into drama. These people don't have personality. They have drama that is appropriate for the situation, and they're fighting for justice, against some common fate, against entropy itself. They are they're fascinated with history. They study history because it helps them to understand the present and to predict the future. So they have a historical perspective, and it helps them to take advantage of what's going on in their times. And because they have clarity, 20 is got the body of fate is over here in Aquarius, decadent of Aquarius. And the mask is over here in Gemini. And that's as far. Oh, and they are themselves in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius Aries. And that is a burgeoning. Aries is just, you know, the power of life itself. So these people with their clarity of vision, they can see in the culture those beliefs, those laws, those standards that need changing. And they go, and what they do is bust through them. They push the borders of ethics, morality, decency. They step over the bounds. Now, this is a test of right use of power, and a test of temperance. Remember this card. This is a test. And it's very much a test of right use of power in relationships. These people are bulldozers. They have the gift of rhetoric. All of them do up in here. They are communicators of extraordinaire. They're very dramatic speakers, and they love their drama. They love their drama. Here we've come down into 10, and the creative genius down here is in Leo decadent, and it's drama, you know. And that drama can take them way too far. They can get so involved in their drama that they won't know when to stop. Remember, ease of movement. They need the self-control that comes from this moon phase 10. That learned emotional self-control, so that it could control other people. And 20 takes very much advantage of that. They're the most passionate phase, and they need to pursue the middle path. You know, the Kabbalah has the two on one on either side, one on either side, and the one up the middle is the one that goes through the moon and the heart, and right up to Keter. And that's what these people need to pursue. It's the middle path, because they are so powerful. They're so powerful. They can easily overwhelm the opposition. Out of bounds, oh my God. They have no ethics, no restraint. Out of phase. I mean, out of phase means they really go out of bounds. They lose. They go way too far. They don't and they don't understand censure, because they tend to be blameless. That's the Leo up here. One of the things I've noticed about Moon and Leo, or people who are overwhelmingly Leo, is they don't take the blame for anything. I mean, that's Virgo, right? Blame. They're Leo, not Virgo. So when they're out of phase, they're dangerous, and their self-preservation takes over. They're superstitious, and they're tyrants. And they do believe, they tend to believe pretty much across the board, moon phase 20s, that the ends justify the means. remember, we've got to get rid of the emotional domination here. We've got to get rid of all those ideals and habits of expectation so that you can deal with what's really going on in the world. And those emotions are not real emotions. They're habits of thought. They're habits of expectations. So these people are still working free of that. And when they are taken over by the emotions, they're moon phase 20 are dangerous people. In phase, they have ability to see themselves in others. They can mentally project themselves into other people's lives. And in doing this, they can successfully take spontaneous action. They want to make history. They want to make an impact on the world. They're audacious. They're dramatic. And, God willing, controlled. With that gift of rhetoric, they can inspire other people to join in the struggle. And that struggle is always and should be against prejudice, against injustice, against limitations on human creativity and freedom. They're seekers. They're seeking understanding of connections and all the interactions of how does reality work? How does this work up here? Remember, they're politicians. Another word for these people is the judge and the realist. So a quote from Plotinus here. The endeavor is not to be without sin, but to be a god. As Yeats said, the real sin is not doing it. Okay, and we got some really cool moon phase 20. You'll recognize these are powerful people. Johnny Appleseed, John Chapman, Stephen Hawking, Adolf Hitler. Now, Adolf Hitler is the perfect example of a moon phase 20 that doesn't know when to quit. A moon phase 20 that gets so carried away in his drama. Of course, I also think he was possessed. He was very superstitious and playing around in the astral, and that's a dangerous place. And I think the man might have been possessed. Excuse me while I have a sip of water. But you can definitely see the drama overload and not knowing when to quit with that dude. Niccolo Machiavelli, he's got a bad reputation. He doesn't deserve that bad reputation. He was just doing what he could for his king, his duke. Marilyn Monroe. Now, did she set standards? She did indeed. And I was growing up under those standards, and it was hard. Elizabeth Taylor, another standard setter. Brigham Young, another standard setter. And and this is fun. Toyota. You ever wonder why you see so many around? No, they set the standard. So here's our cards. Now this card we've seen before. It's self-mastery. It's self-reliance. It's, well, let me get the Kabbalah in, in the picture here. It's right here. It's right here. Now remember, these two go back and forth. Saturn and Uranus talk to each other all the time, and they work together to do what they have to do. And these work together, they go back and forth, but not this one. This one is, you got to control your Mars before you can fully own your Jupiter. That means you have to have that, your passion, and that lion is your passion. You have to have that passion under control. Notice she has just a gentle hand on that lion, but she is willpower. Willpower. Okay, and this also has to do with craftsmanship and standards for action and so forth. Okay, and temperance. Temperance is a test, of course. It's also called probation. One of the quotes I have about temperance is, it's the primary temptation by which the Creator tempts the righteous. So, and here we have a really interesting moon phase 20. This is Theodore Roosevelt. He did not like to be called Teddy. He was born 27 October 1858 at 7:45 p.m. in New York. I think he might be the only president we've ever had that was born in New York. So his ascendant is ruled by Mercury, and that Mercury is a quintile to Mars. Mars is the division, quintile is a division of the world by 5, and is talents. And he had a talent for rhetoric. So anyway, the ascendant is ruled by Mercury, which is ruled by Mars, which is ruled by Saturn, which is ruled by the Sun, which is conjunct Mercury. So there's this little round robin that goes there that is very, very empowering. The Jupiter in Gemini is on the ascendant. It's opposite that Venus in Sagittarius on the descendant. So, and that's his mask over there, and that is a love of nature, that Venus over there in Sagittarius, and the outdoors, Sagittarius. So a very active sportsman here. Although he had noticed the Sun, Mercury in Scorpio is on the 6th, and it's opposite Pluto. It's also in conjunct, an illness aspect, in conjunct to Uranus, and that he had asthma as a child, and was homeschooled, and he's got that Chiron up there in the 9th house of kind of an alienation, an exclusion, and that Chiron is very important to this man in the 9th house. Anyway, what he did is he rebuilt himself, and gave him the notion that anybody could, at South Node in Virgo down there. All you have to do is work at it, right? Okay. His midheaven is ruled by Neptune, and public service was his forte. North Node up there. And the natural world was his muse. That's the Venus in Sagittarius over there on the descendant, the house of the mask. So he did so much as president. The creative genius is in the 9th. There, it's conjunct Chiron, and that is up there in the house of legalizing. He undertook a preservation of special places. Uranus rules the wilderness, and it was over there in his 12th house. And so he had, when he went into seclusion, he went into the wilderness, and he was a conservationist. He very much appreciated the natural world. He has, notice that appreciation of the natural world. He has, this man is loaded with oppositions, but 2 of his oppositions are between Earth and water. He's got a moon opposite Mars, and Sun Mercury opposite Pluto. And so he's very earthy and grounded man. As a president, at a time when robber barons were busy looting the natural resources, he coined a radical idea that corporate interests should be subordinate to national interests, to the people's interests. He was a trust buster, even though he was a friend of bankers. Remember, Moon Phase 20 is still a man of his times. And he was very much a man of his times, if at the forefront and leading the way. And he did what he wanted. Theodore Roosevelt did what he wanted. He told Congress there was nothing they could do to stop him. Notice that Congress, up there in the 11th House, is ruled by Mars, and he's got that Mars under control. His Mars is in his 8th house, and this man owns that power. So he was very, very successful, as 20s are when they put their efforts out there into the world. He was a very successful president, and we're still benefiting and inspired by his example and his work. But in his private life, he was every bit as much as what he was in his public life. And the problem with 19, 20, 21 is that if they involve themselves overly in one-to-one relationships, as to telling other people what to do, other people lose their freedom. These 19 and 20 and 21 are very powerful people and need to expend their energy on in a larger environment. Teddy Roosevelt, he overwhelmed and intimidated his sons. He had this peculiar, he was married twice. The Gemini, Sagittarius on the descendant line pretty much guarantees 2 marriages. He married twice. His first wife was the love of his life, and lasted only long enough to produce a daughter. And he was so devastated that he left his daughter in the hands of a sister and went away to the West, where he virtually immersed himself in ranching and hunting and learning to love and appreciate the wild places. And we benefit from his sojourn, still benefit from that. But when he went home again, he was gone for several years, and he took his daughter Alice away from one who loved her, her aunt, Theodore's sister, and took her home, married another woman, and had a bunch of kids. And Alice they never spoke of Alice's mother. Never spoke of Alice's mother, and it kind of made her strange. Alice was a 17, and turned into a cynical and bitter woman, and I think she was probably hard to live with. Anyway, that was not the end of Teddy's weirdness. He virtually, his niece, he had a brother Elliot, and his niece was Eleanor Roosevelt, whom I admire very much. She was a moon phase 22, the ultimate politician. And Theodore did not approve of his younger brother Elliot, because Elliot was at moon phase 8. And often, before moon phase 8 can move on, they will just evolve into drunk and the good life and drugs and whatever. And Theodore did not approve of this. Not approve of this. Notice the Saturn in Leo in the 3rd house of the brother. And that South Node in Virgo, he's got the right, absolute right to run his family. And he broke up Elliot's family and drove Elliot into an early grave and virtually ultimately orphaned Eleanor. So the application of this is this right use of power. We're talking about moon phase 22 or 20 is about right use of power. That's what that one is about. Right use of power. These people up here, here, let me put her back again. Oh, actually, we didn't talk, we talked about this one, but we didn't talk about this one. Yeah, we did. Okay, on we go. Okay. These are very, very, very powerful people, and they have at their disposal the incredible power and the of the mind and the ability to express that power, and this makes them excellent politicians. They are the new myth makers. They're to lead the world into better and freer and more creative times. And they need to they have the power to change the world. They need to be very careful about use of that power down in the private arena, because they are overwhelming people. So that is Moon Phase 20. The Judge. I'll be talking to you tomorrow about Moon Phase 21. And they very much benefit from the excess indulged in by Moon Phase 20. And I'll see you then. Until then, may your life be blessed. Goodbye. Hello. Hello.